Hey friends, Pastor Michael from Organic Church, here with Sydney Erickson, Don Reed, Beth Jarvis, Nick Offolter, and Pastor Roger Deerdorf. Nathan for that pizza. Seriously.
We had it
Mises
yesterday.
pizza?
So, but I'm like, we got pepperoni, Italian, whatever their salami is, and then I think ham. And
Maybe they'll let us do an episode of our podcast in there.
Yeah.
Well, we're on air now.
Oh, we are?
officially.
Oh,
Like,
This message is brought to you by
16
Mises
seconds now.
Pizza.
I'm like, you got
She was hoping to catch you again.
no. Well, hello, everyone.
Well, hello.
Hello.
Hello?
Doctor?
Doctor.
What show is that from? I don't remember. But they all just walk in the room and doctor?
House.
Doctor? I don't know. It was
Oh, one of
stupid.
the old.
Yeah.
Old.
Yeah.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Are you showing your age, Pastor Mike?
Oh, listen. Oh, I found out. Fun fact. Love fun facts. I found out that I'm turning 38 this year, not 37. I thought I was turning 37.
You know, when you said you were turning 37, I'm like, I feel like you've been saying that for a while.
Yeah, at least a year I've been saying it. Yeah, it turns out my phone corrected me.
Oh.
Yeah, I have a notification that it's like, hey, your birthday's coming up. You'll be 38. What?
The phone lied.
Yeah, the phone is a liar. Also, fun fact about my birthday, nobody actually knows when my birthday is.
I do.
So my birth certificate says August 5th, but both my grandmother and my mother swear it was August 4th. They are fully convinced, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that it was August 4th and that they put the wrong date on the birth certificate.
But didn't they have to sign it? But I mean, I just had a baby.
At that moment,
You're so frazzled, you're like, sure.
Yeah.
Sign here.
Yeah. Yep. So my grandma every year for the longest time would text me on the 4th and tell me happy birthday. I'm like, it's not my birthday. And she's like, are you sure? I showed her my birth certificate. She's like, I'm pretty sure it's the 4th. And my mom has always said it was the 4th. So,
My grandmother's birth certificate had the wrong year
oh my God.
My.
In advance or behind?
behind.
Oh, that's a bummer. That's a bummer.
Wow.
I wish mine was advanced.
Yeah, right. No kidding. No kidding.
I listened to a podcast that she always thought her name was this. Well, then turns out on her the birth certificate, it was not.
Her name wasn't this, it was that.
It was that, yeah. Well, then she actually went and officially got it changed because she named her daughter the name that she thought she was.
Jeez.
So then her daughter was actually the OG and she was junior.
Interesting. Interesting.
But
Anybody have anything fun happen so far this week since we've seen each other last?
What's your definition of fun?
Well, not what Roger and I were just doing. I can tell you that.
last week, let's see.
I don't think I've had anything overly exciting.
I did. I got to go to the beach.
Oh,
and
yes.
I
And
got
those
to
cute little
save
turtles.
8 little sea turtles.
Yeah, that was so cute.
It was very interesting to see.
Sea
that.
squirrels or sea turtles?
Sea turtles.
Oh, it sounded like you said squirrels.
Oh,
No,
the Sandy
no
is the only sea squirrel I know.
She lives in a bubble.
Yes.
Yes. Under the sea.
Under the sea.
With SpongeBob
In Bikini
SquarePants.
Bottom. Yep. In Bikini
Although, we did build Bikini Bottom on the first and second step of the pool, me and Bennett. So
Of course you did.
we did. Of
course
we
you
had
did.
all kind of little floaty things all down in there. Or I should say his little dive toys.
Yeah.
They weren't
Floaty
floaties. They didn't
floaty
stick.
things could really
Yeah,
be rough.
It's like she took Dawn's pooper with her.
No, that would have sunk.
Oh, Lord have mercy.
Yes, it would have.
Lord have mercy.
Are we
Everybody out of the
Oh,
pool.
word.
This is all live. It's happening right now, buddy.
Oh, yes.
There's no turning back. There is no turning
A
back.
whopping almost 4 minutes now.
Oh my goodness.
I feel like
Like
the
4
banter
hours.
is important. Though.
It is. Oh, that. Speaking of, that is a soft introduction.
Yes.
I learned
Yes.
today. A hard introduction would be like just the original.
Well, if you listen to like Unsolved Mysteries, the podcast Unsolved Mysteries, which is fantastic, by the way. If you like,
Season 4, the episodes of like the video ones were aired today.
oh, okay.
And I was just watching one.
It's good stuff.
Yeah.
But it's hard introductions. It's the
Yeah.
music and this is the mystery of, and then they go straight into the story. I think a soft intro is important. especially when it's like not pre-recorded stuff. Like
Yeah.
we're sitting here live, and whatever comes
Yeah.
out goes into the cast.
Right, Beth?
We don't clip it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
We do not clip. So it is what it is.
Mama is mad.
Oh goodness.
All right. Well, tonight's topic is what decisions have been most important in shaping your life today? Go.
Don't everybody go at once.
I'm still in vacation mode. I got to think about that.
I've got a good one, but I don't want to.
Becoming a pastor.
No, no. Let me tell you something. You know what? If I could figure out a way to have a mega church, I've always said I would never pastor a mega church because you can't know your people, right? You kind of lose that personal connection. But man, I bet they don't tear up carpet and
No, they
paint.
I bet they
and
don't
they,
either.
they have somebody do it.
pay somebody to do that stuff.
Mhm.
Yet here Roger and I are doing all the.
Hey, and
The
I
fun
worked
things.
up a sweat in the air conditioner.
Yeah,
too.
me too. Yeah, that should be illegal
That's I think
in
it should
every
be.
country.
Yeah.
What about an air conditioner?
I said I worked up a sweat even with the air conditioner
Oh,
on, so
okay.
that's way too much
Yeah.
hard work.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Are you sure your pastor turned it on? Because he's famous for letting you cook.
No,
Oh, no,
I'm
he-
famous
no.
for letting you free.
And freeze.
No, no.
I'm famous for letting you
when he works, it's on.
Yes,
Oh, okay.
for sure. For sure.
That's why I like working with him because the air's always on
Yeah.
and you always got coffee.
Yep. There's
That's
always
true.
coffee.
There you go.
Biggest one for me was marrying my wife. That's an easy one. Like that's probably I would probably be. I'm not going to say dead by now, but
No.
definitely homeless and probably like flat broke with nothing to show for my life if I wouldn't have gotten married.
But he'd have 37 Elvis.
I was going to say, but I would own one of every Elvis jumpsuits. Which, by the way, Nick,
Did you order your belt?
no, I have not ordered my belt yet. I ordered a new jumpsuit. Did I share that? That I bought my
Mhm.
powder
Blue
blue. I
one?
did
Yeah,
share the
Blue
powder
one.
blue.
Yeah. Mhm.
Arrived. No, not that jumpsuit. Arrived yesterday. What was yesterday? Yes, arrived
Tuesday.
yesterday. My mother bought me an American Eagle jumpsuit.
Oh,
It was used, but it fits almost perfectly. I'm gonna have to have it let out just a touch, but it fits almost perfectly. Belt, cape, jumpsuit,
wow.
the whole bit. So
Shoes.
shoes. The shoes are
Oh.
ugly though. The matter of fact, the shoes immediately went on my mannequin at home that has my peacock jumpsuit on it. That way, I don't have to put the boots that I wear on it and
Oh.
take them back off when I want to use them. So yeah,
That's
Happy
smart.
birthday to you.
I know,
Right?
right?
Nice.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
really beat up. So it is an original B&K jumpsuit. So B&K is the company that owns the original stud layouts to Elvis's jumpsuits. So Bill Ballou, who used to make Elvis's jumpsuits, worked with that company. Like when he retired, they took over all of his stuff. So the suit is almost 40 years old.
Hmm.
That suit is almost
Kinda cool.
40 years old.
Wow.
That suit is older than I am. And it's still got a lot of life left in it. I mean, it is well worn. It is, the inside is yellowed and just beat up. Man, it is nice. So,
But the outside isn't, right?
I mean, it's definitely worn, but everything is fixable. So it had lots of pilling from where the metal on the belt that he wore, because again, back then they weren't making the stuff that they're making now.
Yeah.
You can't. It's much different quality. That was cute, Roger. That was sounded like he threw up.
Sounded like a bullfrog.
But the belt had frayed part of the jumpsuit. Beth, why you look like you're gonna puke?
Speaking of bullfrogs, Lily found a toad in the back
Oh
of the
no,
yard.
no.
She's like, "Oh, Pastor Michael,
Nuh-uh.
this toad, take a picture, Grandma, take a picture."
No, thank. Why? She doesn't even know me. Why does everybody do that to me? Goodness gracious. But so it's frayed there, and I have one of those fabric shavers, those electric fabric, and it took almost all of it off right away. There's some black stains from the metal on that belt. The way that the belt was made had some showing metal on the inside. So I'm going to try some Melaleuca on that. Should take that right out, I would think. Some small stains in weird places, like there's one on the shoulder, but I've otherwise completely. And from stage, you would never see any of that
Yeah.
stuff. So
How exciting.
yeah, when I got it, she was like, I think you're going to be disappointed because it's in such bad shape. Again, when you see it the first time, you're like, but when I put it on and it fit, I was like, oh boy. Now, mind you, she brought it to me at work. I put it on in the office and just wore it for a little while because, what else are you going to do with it? So,
Because why not?
yeah,
Right.
exactly. So, yeah.
Hey, with the right lighting and everything.
That's what I said. You'll never see any of that stuff. So when we do the Elvis show here, that's
Yeah.
for sure on the list of suits to wear. So I get to do, listen, it's crazy how many bookings we've done in the past 2 months. I mean, I've probably done like last minute bookings too. People call me like, hey, can you be here in a week? And I go every time because money. I buy another jumpsuit. Because now that I have an American Eagle, the only place to go next is a Tiger. What else are you going to do? Like, that's the next.
The next best thing.
Yeah. Yep.
So on topic, but off topic. Are you offended by, do you prefer to be called an Elvis impersonator or an Elvis performer?
So actually the
Or
term
do
is
you-
tribute artist. You're an
Okay.
Elvis tribute artist. So they actually use the term ETA. So Graceland, that's how they refer to them. If you go to an official contest, it's an Elvis tribute artist contest.
So do you guys get offended by the term impersonator?
No, not really. But so I always tell people I am not trying to impersonate Elvis. There was only ever one. You're never going to be. Nobody's ever going to sing like him. Nobody's ever going to move like him. You're not going to be able to duplicate that. So my shows are to pay honor to the man and the music. So yeah, it's a tribute more than it is an impersonation. But yeah, and I've only ever seen, of all the Elvis impersonators I've ever seen, I've only ever seen one that I would say, wow, that's a really good, like everything about him is Elvis. So. He's really young, super young guy. His name's Matt Stone. He's out of Florida. Dude's fantastic.
I thought you were going to say Michael.
Yeah. His name is Michael Brindley. He lives in Dover.
I really
Fantastic. Dude is like top notch. No, this kid is probably 23, 24 years old, but I'm talking the 70s Elvis down to a T. He buys replica equipment of, like if he's doing a 70s Vegas show, he uses the same microphone Elvis would have used in his 70s Vegas shows.
Oh, wow.
I'm talking like he modifies amplifiers to look like the amplifiers that Elvis would have had. Like he bought it's a stage prop, like my Elvis Gibson. It's not a real Gibson guitar. He bought one of those brand new, and then he scuffed it to make it look like Elvis's guitar. Put the same nicks and dents, and you know what I mean, to get it as close as he could. He's legit. He's pretty good, but yeah.
Now, do you think is it because of the jumpsuits that most Elvis, tribute artists are the late Elvis? Most of them are, because
no, it's the vocal range.
Okay.
You will meet very few guys who can sing like Elvis did in the 50s and in the early 60s.
Because I think that would be cool to see him like during his son years.
Yeah, so there is a kid that does
early
that too. His
period.
name is Riley Jenkins. Alyssa and I love this guy. Like if he gets close enough, we go and see him. He's out of Tennessee, but he's fantastic. I've been begging Alyssa to take me to Branson. He is in a production of the $1 Million Quartet. He plays Elvis in the Sun Years in the $1 Million Quartet. He is fantastic. Gold lame jacket, like he really goes all out. He's fantastic.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
So there
Get
are.
that RV, you could take a drive.
Listen, did I tell you about the RV?
No,
Did we-
well, you started. He was working
Getting
up to.
close.
okay,
Oh,
So
yeah,
for
it
a
was
year.
close.
we found one.
You told us you found one, and
We
you
found
think
one,
you
and she was on. She was.
Yeah,
Listen, we
okay.
were on board, and so I text the guy. I'm the salesman. I'm like, give us the price. What's the payment gonna be? So we were like, hey, this is exactly where we wanted to be. The RV is the length that we wanted it. It has the bunk beds that we wanted. It was top notch. And he's like, well, just give me a call and we can do everything over the phone. I was like, no, we're gonna want to come up and see it because it's in Canton.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, that's not possible. You'd have to fly to Utah.
Oh, it's in Utah.
It was in Utah. They were gonna bring it in. No thanks. I'm not giving you 70 grand and not be able to see it first. Like,
Yeah.
get here and the tires are falling off.
And then
of
you
it.
have to take it.
And I'm stuck with
Yeah,
it
no.
because I financed it at that
No.
point. So yeah, we opted not to do that. So that was a bummer.
Was it used?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it was 59,000, but then they were charging us $3,000 to bring it.
Oh,
I was like, that's dumb.
Yeah, that's no good.
Yeah. Because we were going to put $5,000 down on it. And I was like, well, the $5,000 gets eaten up in the delivery fee. You know what I mean? So anyhow.
Yeah, that's no good.
Womp, womp.
Womp, womp. Well, after we thought about it too, we're like, well, where are we parking this big thing?
I told
It's
you.
34 feet long. It's not going in the driveway. Right? They're going to pull the car in to charge it, so it's not going in the driveway.
Stutzman's driveway.
Well, we had talked about there's a place across from, what's that? Lawn and Garden Center by my house. Anybody know? Hillcrest.
Oh, yeah, Hillcrest.
So just across from Hillcrest, they have an open lot that you can they'll let you park stuff there. But I really didn't want to do that. But yeah,
That's too close to the bar up there.
quit touching your cord, Roger. Thank you.
Well,
I
you're
didn't
going to
mean
want it
to.
under cover for
Yes,
winter,
yeah.
And
I have a garage.
Is it big enough for?
It's
Oh, you know what? My
huge.
grandma and grandpa have a garage too. What was I thinking?
Yeah, Chase's garage. It's like too big.
There's no such thing.
I was going to say, there's no such thing as too.
Well, it helps that it's not on our property though, so then he can't.
He can't fill it full of Pokemon.
Yeah, I guess he could be in it all the time, but then he wouldn't be home. You know what I mean? So, yeah, when he bought it, my grandma was like, "Oh, watch, he's gonna be over there all the time." I'm like, "No, he's not like that."
Yeah. All right. So back to my decision. Mine was marrying my wife for sure, because again, I would be
Because she lets you do these things.
I would be penniless. I would be absolutely broke. I would have a ton of Elvis jumpsuits, but I would be absolutely penniless. She probably is like the glue that holds life together, generally speaking. Like all of the things that the kids do. She's the keeper of the calendar, and like she just has all of the smarts. So
That has to be one of the most important male decisions.
oh yeah.
It's marrying the right woman. I don't know if you can say the same for a woman marrying a man. I think if a man
no,
doesn't
because
marry
mine
the
was
right
an
woman,
epic fail.
I mean,
Well, most
I know
of the
it's
time,
important. I know it's important, but you
most
women
of the
seem to be-
time-
you women seem to be better independently.
yes,
Yes.
yes, we have to get married. That is a fact. As men, if we don't get married, we're lost.
Yeah,
Like
we're 20 years. We pretend we're 20.
for the rest of our
for
lives.
our lives.
Most women can mature into just be like, I can live by myself. I can pay the bills and live my life. And us men are like, just spend it.
yeah.
Is there a bar open on Sunday morning?
There's a country song like "She's What I Needed," but it's like I can't remember what he is to her, but it's not what she needed necessarily. But yeah, it's what men need.
Yeah, that's a fact.
Yeah. And if we marry the wrong one,
Oh,
it's
disaster.
I think
it's
back to just some of the people that I dated and how different they were from my wife. So then when Alyssa and I started to date, I was like, she's boring. She doesn't like to go do anything wild and fun and stupid.
she took my wallet.
yeah. I don't like to do anything fun. And then all of a sudden I realized that life isn't always about having fun.
Right. Yeah.
Yes.
Sometimes life is about being responsible. And that's not
Wah,
fun.
wah, wah.
Yeah.
Right?
You have to have some kind of a goal in life.
Yeah. And her goal is to get to travel when the kids all graduate. Like that was, we had our kids young because our hope was that once all of the kids were graduated and moved out, we would both still be young enough and have enough money that we could go and travel. Well, if I keep buying jumpsuits, that ain't going to happen. So,
So we might as well travel now.
well, and what she did
Yeah.
was we made an agreement. So whatever I make in Elvis, I can spend on Elvis, but I can't spend any family money on Elvis stuff, which is the best way to do it, right?
Right.
It drives me to do shows. That's all the money that I like. On the last jumpsuit that I bought, she said to me, she said, "Hey, just so you know, you've probably got enough to buy a jumpsuit if you want to buy one." I was like, "Yes," but that wasn't her money, so she didn't care. Like, it was easy to say that.
Yeah.
So, the kids aren't going hungry because I'm buying stupid stuff.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. That's kind of how Chase's like card stuff is. Like that's his card money.
Yep.
Like whatever. If he wants to sell some more to buy some more, sure. But yeah.
Yep. I was thinking about him the other day. I remember one time when I was thinking about him because I was looking at all of my Pokemon cards and thinking, God, why do I have these? It was a weird season in life. I didn't have any sense. I just bought Pokemon cards. I didn't care. I didn't care at all. But he, one time we were doing something and I don't remember what it was, and he didn't come for whatever reason. He says, I'm out here earning the babies and earning his inheritance. He didn't know if it was a boy or a girl at the time. He was insistent that it was a boy. So he was out there earning his inheritance. And that's genuinely how he looked at it too. Like when he goes to work, it's not just to make money. Like that's money to set his family up. So that's not everybody thinks that way.
Oh, absolutely not.
No. Funny story. So we went to the national card show
Did he buy anything?
Friday. Yeah, he ended up buying. It was kind of like
First
just,
edition
like,
holographic Charizard?
disappointing. No, so that's the thing. I was like, oh yeah, I'll go, I guess. And then we get there and it's the sports cards because he'll go in like these weird. Sometimes he'll be more focused on Pokemon. Sometimes he'll be more focused on sports cards.
We've been there.
Yeah. And we've gone to like Canton, the Canton card shows before. And like, I know what I'm kind of looking at. And I know like current players and stuff. So I'm like, when we got there and I noticed it was sports, I'm like, oh, thank God.
Yeah. We're not going to try to spend $40,000 this afternoon.
And nothing on Pokemon at all. Like, it was just more entertaining for me. And it was very, like, overwhelming, though, because it was at the IX Center.
Mhm.
There was no service. And, like, so you couldn't really separate. I mean, it was so packed. And then no service. And for as much as they anticipated, like, how many people would be there, because they were like, okay, let's have it at the IX Center. We had a ton of people last year, this and that. They had one side open, like one set of doors.
Yeah.
And I think we had to walk like over a mile to get to our car.
Oh my God.
And then we get to the door and it like started snaking. You know what I mean? Like it would go up then down. It went fast somehow, but yeah.
I did something at the IX Center. It was the same way. Like they just didn't plan very
it
well
was
for the
bizarre.
size of the event.
Mm-hmm.
Sid sent me a picture of an original Jailhouse Rock. I think it was Jailhouse Rock, wasn't it?
I think.
Either way, it was an original Elvis promo photo. Like one of the OGs that they would have printed, 500 and handed out to a limited number of people. And it was super cool. And I was like, I'm going to hop on and bid on that because it had a little QR code. And I didn't bid on it because when I looked at it, it was at $400. It was like $386 at that point. And it still had days to go.
Yeah.
I can't imagine what it was going to end up selling for. I never did look, but I keep telling Alyssa, I want a unique Elvis artifact. I want to own something unique out of it. And so then I tried to talk her into taking me to Graceland so I could steal something, but she said that's not right. So
Yeah.
she said it's in like one of the 10 commandments or something. I don't know what those are.
I think
But
I've heard that.
yeah.
Like the one last week about lying.
Yeah.
Well, maybe you could like bend out, just like get a blade of grass.
I'm not going to
On the
admit,
lawn or
I'm
something.
admitting this
Yeah.
on this podcast.
Or a leaf.
And I think the statute of limitations has passed at this point.
I don't think it is.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. But I one time when I went to Graceland, like the very first trip that I went in the wintertime, I stole one of the blue lights out of the driveway. Now, here's the thing. I was super nervous because I was like, I'm going to unscrew this light bulb and they're all going to go out. Every one goes out.
I was going to say,
one
one goes out.
All the alarms go off.
I did.
Then the red lights come on.
Now, like I was tying my shoe, twisted one of those blue light bulbs out.
He's like the Grinch stole Christmas.
Yeah. I don't know what I ever did with it. I don't even know that it ever made it home with me, but I probably threw it in the trash thinking I was going to go to jail over it.
So you had your chance.
Yeah.
It has your fingerprints,
Yeah.
your DNA.
I really
Had it all.
I want something super unique, but it's hard to do that. It's expensive.
Oh, yeah.
It's expensive.
And I feel like the more the years go on, it's just going to get
There's
more
less and less to get your
Mhm.
hands on
Yeah.
over time.
Yeah.
It's hard to trust a lot of that stuff.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
Because, people just have a way of remaking everything.
Mhm.
Well, there's a guy on one of my Elvis sites selling an Elvis scarf. It was never worn. It was bought for the 77 tour that Elvis died right before he went on, but it was one of the scarves that he would have given away. This thing is ugly brown. It is putrid. It is hideous. And he's got this certificate of authenticity that looks like your grandma may have
print
made
it
it.
off.
Like, no, barely printed off. It's like one of those paper certificates that are pre-made and then it's like handwritten on. Maybe there's some typewriter work on there, but it is.
Oh,
I'm like, yeah, super legit, buddy.
Typewriter, what's that?
Yeah, people really got out of hand with the certificate of
Yeah.
authenticity.
Mhm.
Like nobody could just make one, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
they act like
If
that.
and
Yeah.
for me, if it's not graded or certified through PSA or somebody, I'm not interested.
They had PSA at the
Yeah.
Nationals. I
That would
thought
be
that was
cool.
pretty neat.
Yeah.
So you could go
Yeah, I've
buy
always
a
wanted to
card.
get some of my cards graded, but I don't want to send them off.
Right.
That's the way I am.
Yeah. That's how Chase is too.
I have
Yeah.
a 1978 set of Elvis bubblegum cards. It's the complete set. And I wanted to get the whole set graded because how cool would it be to have it's like 88 cards, 1 through 88 completely graded. First of all, the cost, it's like $25
Oh,
a
yeah.
card
Mm-hmm.
and to send all of them. And then it's who knows how long you have to wait because
Yeah.
you have to pay for expedited service. Otherwise,
Right.
they get them. We'll get to them when we get to them. They'll be dead before they come back. So,
Just like everything else.
Am I going to get the real one back?
yeah.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
They got some dude in there looking at
Yeah.
signatures going,
Pocketing
them off.
yeah,
Yeah.
pocketing yours and sending you back a fake.
Yeah.
One time so when we were in like 4th grade, we had to send off for autographs or we had to send a letter to somebody famous. I was a big Dan Marino fan back then. Didn't understand football, knew nothing about it, but like Dan Marino. So I sent a letter to the Dolphins and I was like, hey, I'd really like to have a 4th grader. I get back an autograph from Dan Marino. I was so excited. And the other day, I found it, and I was like, wow, how cool. Still in the envelope from the Miami Dolphins. And I read the little letter again. It was a fake autograph. It even says in the letter that this is a face mail autograph. It's a facsimile. It's freaking fake. I was like, so I threw it away. I was like, screw you, Dan Marino. See if I ever buy another one of your jerseys, Dan Marino. Oh, wait, I can't. I was freaking mad. I was so mad. Went through my whole life thinking I had a Dan Marino autograph. Nothing.
I think I did that with a Hulk Hogan. There was a point when he was with WWF that he got squashed by the earthquake, broke his ribs. So he was out, for months. But they were, of course, like, oh, send Hogan a letter, let him know you're thinking of him. So, of course, being a kid, you sent him a letter, and I got like a postcard back and it had his autograph on it. Thought the same thing, but yeah, only to turn out that, it wasn't real.
Yeah. Stupid.
But, yeah.
Dumb.
It's like, thanks. You're laying in the bed, Hogan. At least you can do it.
It should be illegal. Right. Get my hopes up.
What
Get
else
my
you doing
hopes
right
up.
now?
Yeah. Not happy about that. I also was thinking about when we were kids. Remember when we were kids? This has nothing to do with what we're talking about. Do you remember when we were kids? And maybe not for you guys. I don't know how the mail system and cereal worked back in the day. But remember, like, you used to eat so many boxes of cereal and, like, you could send in for, like, a Nickelodeon stopwatch or something. Like, there was always, like...
Yeah.
And remember when Kool-Aid you cut off the UPCs and you had proofs of purchase. It was like Kool-Aid Cash, and you could mail it in and get cool Kool-Aid merch, but it would take 3.5 years to get the merch.
Our prizes were in the boxes.
Exactly.
We had that.
That's Cracker
Even better.
Jacks.
We used to have that, but those were always dumb. But do you remember, like, they were like spoons that changed colors that
Yeah.
never actually worked?
Yeah.
Like,
They were
only-
broke half the time.
Yeah, only part of it changed colors, and it always tasted like Fruity Pebbles. Like, the taste never went away. Do you remember the Ninja Turtle bowls?
Yes.
That had the head and, like, it was like the shell of the turtle and you ate out of it.
Yes.
Do you remember that? My mom still has mine,
Awesome.
and we had every one of them, like all 4 of them, and I still eat cereal out of those.
That's
So
awesome.
it's pretty legit. Anyhow,
And that's an important life decision that you've always kept with you.
yep.
Hey.
Listen, I'm a hoarder when it comes to stupid stuff like that. So
Well, I still have my whole set of what was the Scooby Doo set of
Yeah.
glasses from Burger Chef.
was it Burger King or McDonald's that did the Disney glasses that had like Pocahontas and Fox and the Hound? And
I think it's McDonald's.
I
I
don't
was
know.
going to say McDonald's
Yeah.
as well, but
The last time I shouldn't say last time. My mom at one point had all of those, and I remember when we lived on McConnell Street, we had a breakfast bar, and you'd open that breakfast bar, and they were all in there, still in the boxes. Like, I don't know where they've ended up now, but they used to
Her
They're
craft
probably
room.
still in the box.
probably in her
Probably.
craft room. Yeah, but my mom kept all that stuff. So. Yeah, but I will say that I got that habit from her.
Oh yeah.
Like, if it looks collectible, maybe it's collectible, could be perceived as collectible. I want it, and I want all of them. All of them.
Hey, if somebody's not nostalgic, I think there's something wrong with them.
Yes, I agree. I agree.
I just do. I'm like, how do you not?
Probably serial killers if they're not
Yeah.
nostalgic. Yeah.
I listened to a podcast, The Cult of Nostalgia.
Okay.
It's a lighthearted like the cult of homeschoolers or the cult.
Yeah.
It's just like or the cult of teachers, and they're pretty funny for the most part.
Well, and you
so.
say that they say that our generation we were big collectors because we lived through the Beanie Baby boom. We lived through like all of those, like
Yeah.
everything was collectible for a very short while. Furbies, remember Furbies? Holy smokes,
Yes.
remember Furbies? Like people
I
were
still-
beating each other up in
Uh-huh.
KB Toys for Furbies.
I still have mine in our storage room.
My grandpa has an all gray one wrapped in brown paper, and he keeps it in his garage. It's still in the box, never been opened. And we broke it out to sell it on eBay. They're not worth squat.
Really?
No, nobody wants them. It's like Beanie Babies. We were paying $7 a piece for those things, and again, we would kill each other for them, like fight over Beanie Babies, and nobody wants them.
dare any 65-year-old man or woman to say that we were more civilized than this,
Oh yeah,
because if you see them fighting over Cabbage Patch Dolls in 1984,
yep.
Do you still have yours?
yeah,
Trampling people for TVs on Black Friday.
yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah.
we haven't come very
have not
far.
done that.
No, we haven't. It's just changed. It's just changed a little bit.
Were the pound puppies like that?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
I love those.
My sister had a pound puppy. We are not talking about our topic tonight.
So you're that pound puppies is way after. We were buying pound puppies for our kids.
Yeah.
I just remember getting in my mom and uncle's stuff at my grandma's. I'm like, these are the coolest things ever.
Well, you had the mini, you had the regular size, and you had the jumbo.
Yeah. My sister had a pound puppy that would have puppies.
Mm.
Yeah.
You could put the puppies inside of its belly, and then its belly was Velcro, and you could get the puppies out. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I had all 3 sizes.
Of course you did. I don't doubt it, man.
And
Which
every
I still
color?
had them.
Yeah.
I had the real dark brown color. I like the
Okay.
dark brown ones for some reason. So I had the tiny one, the full size, and the jumbo.
You know, I went on an Elvis Barbie kick. I had to own every Elvis Barbie. And at one point I had them, and I've sold them all off now because I didn't want them. Like, what am I going to do with all these Elvis Barbies? But I did collect every Elvis LP ever made. Originals, not like reproductions, OG. The hardest
How
one,
far back?
forever. I have his very first original LP. So it was titled Elvis Presley.
Yeah.
Yeah. For every one of them. Every one of
Do you
them.
have like his golden records and all that?
Well, they didn't. That wasn't stuff that was produced when he was alive.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, it was.
are you talking like
The
the
Elvis's golden
Yes.
records?
Yes,
Yeah.
where it's a bunch of him and gold lame on the front of the.
Well, that's the second one. I'm talking about the first one.
Oh,
The red
yeah.
cover with
Yeah.
all the.
Yep.
So you have that?
Yes,
Sweet.
yes. So would you just come up and look at them, Nick? Because there's, I swear to you, it's a rack of records this big because they. Anyhow, long story short, the hardest one to get was the Elvis Christmas album that originally had like a red leather binding,
Yeah.
and you opened it up and it was a small picture book on the inside.
I passed it up about a year and a half ago, and I regret it.
I bought one.
A year and a half ago?
Yeah. I bought one online.
This was in Canton or Akron in an antique store.
They shipped it to me, and it was a reproduction, but they charged me
Oh.
original price for it. I was and you know immediately because it's not red leather binding; it's printed.
Yeah.
The red leather is printed, but it was a picture of the real one, and then they shipped me the reproduction. So obviously, I got my money back on that one. But I found one a little while later, and I bought it, and I have never been happier. Like when I bought it, I immediately framed it, and it's on the wall. Like that's just one of those like I've got it, and nobody's ever getting it. But my prized record, you know what it is? It's a Beatles record.
Meet the Beatles,
Yellow Submarine.
Sgt. Pepper.
Yesterday, Today, and Always.
Ah.
Butcher cover.
You have it.
I have one.
Seriously.
Yes. Now, I didn't know that I had one
Is
when
it
I.
covered up?
Yes, it is
Okay.
still stickered. So, and you can tell because you can see Ringo's V-neck in it.
Okay.
So, you know, the dark V
Yeah.
in the middle of it.
Yeah.
So I bought it at Alley Cat Marketplace. When I saw it, I was like, oh, this could be a Butcher cover, but I don't know for sure. And so there are pressing, places, dates, times, like all of this stuff, and it's pressed into the record. So I looked it up while I was standing there. I'm like, everything looks legitimate, face value. I'm just going to buy it. I paid $7 for it.
You got took.
$7 I paid for it.
Wow.
And so immediately I get home and I'm sending pictures to friends. I'm like, hey, it looks like the V. Are you sure this is like, can you confirm? And I had like 6 or 8 guys that are like immediately, yes, it is. How much do you want for it? And I said, ain't settling it. So that one went framed and it hangs on the wall in the
Nice.
office too. So
Yeah, that's cool.
yeah. And I would assume that the guy just didn't know. Because it was that he sells all sorts of records and they're all dirt cheap. So he probably just, and it's not in
Yeah.
the, like the record isn't in the best shape, but I wasn't worried about that. I wanted the cover. So.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Somebody told me to peel it. He's like, just peel it and find out. I'm like, because it doesn't really lose value if you peel it. It confirms that you have what you think you have. So, but then it looks ugly,
Right.
and I don't want it to
Right,
look
it's not
ugly.
gonna peel right.
No, they don't peel off. Like
Yeah.
they just tear the butcher cover underneath. So,
Yeah.
if you've never seen the butcher cover, check it out. It's disgusting, but it's really cool.
I mean, for today.
Yeah, today it's not that bad. Yeah, it's the
I don't,
Beatles.
I don't even realize how they thought it was so bad.
Yeah.
Really.
It's the Beatles holding baby dolls with like decapitated, and their arms are ripped off, and then there's like meat hanging all over
Meat,
them.
bacon or
Yeah.
something. I don't
Yeah, big old,
Bacon.
big old chunks of meat, like so it makes it look like But anyhow, they called it the butcher cover, and there are some uncovered in existence that are highly sought after because they were Sears pre-sold so many, and they shipped before they recalled them. So some people received theirs in the original form, but then they recalled all of them, stopped the shipping, covered them with stickers, and sent them back out. So
Yours is covered with
mine is covered with a sticker. So it has. It's a Ringo is sitting. Is Ringo in the box? I think Ringo is in the box.
Yes.
It's a trunk, like a travel trunk.
Yeah.
Ringo's sitting in the trunk,
Yep.
and then the guys are standing around it. But you can see Ringo's very clear V-neck, because it was a dark black V-neck, in the white spot right behind the thing. I'll send you a picture of that one.
Okay.
It's fun.
Awesome.
I love it.
Yeah.
My wife makes fun
That
of me.
was
for
that was
stuff.
a 66. So that was a rough year for the Beatles.
Yes.
If you recall, that's when Lennon said they were more popular than Jesus,
Mhm.
which
Got
he
him.
didn't mean to say it the way that
Yeah.
everybody took it.
Yeah.
But so I'm going to guess that was not one of his best decisions
Yeah.
in life.
See how he tied that back?
Agreed.
Good job, Nick. Good job. Good job, Nick.
Yeah.
Well, one of my best decisions in life was going into the medical field, choosing nursing as my career.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Espe-
40 years.
Especially when you get to work with kids.
Yes.
You enjoy that
Mhm.
part,
Yes.
right? Like when
Yeah.
you get to.
I've enjoyed every aspect
Mhm.
that I've ever worked in.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then the decision to become a mother. And
I
now
do
I'm a
not
grandmother.
concur.
And now I'm a grandmother.
I do not concur. No, I'm kidding. Kidding.
I'd say mine was decision to be a mother, and then I would say my marriage to Jarvie,
Yeah.
because where one of us is weak, the other is strong.
Yeah.
And we balance each other out sometimes.
That's a good way to put it. Where one is weak, the other is strong. That basically just makes my wife strong. I picture, if we're gonna put it that
Like
way, I
Wonder
picture my
Woman.
wife like Samson.
That's why she doesn't get her hair cut.
Yeah, yes, that's why she never gets her hair cut. Is that my wife?
Run away!
Now you're gonna have to
That's
behave.
Tina Bober. Don't tell her I said that. Don't tell Tina Bober I said that. I only saw her carrying a purse. I just assumed that.
So it must be your wife.
Yeah, a woman carrying a purse. It's got to be my wife. Lord have mercy. Lord have mercy. Nick, what was yours? What's one of your best life decisions?
Well, obviously marrying Margie, but we've already covered that, I think.
Your cat shelter?
Oh, is it time for a Margie Minute?
Let's do
Let's
it.
do it.
Let's do it.
Oh, he was ready.
Might not make a minute, but
It's time for our
It might-
Margie Minute.
He said it might not make a minute.
That's okay.
This might not make a minute,
It's
but
okay.
it was funny nevertheless.
We have lots of questions about the other cat, so whenever we get, when you're done,
Well,
we'll.
this includes the new orange cat. We're sitting there on the patio, and we're just sitting there. We're talking, I think we had a little fire going. And all of a sudden, she whips her head back, and she goes, I hear a bird. That's a bird in distress.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm like, what? I'm like, how do you know when a bird is sounds like it's in distress?
Fluent in birds.
She goes, well, I know the orange cat's back there, and and he's probably attacking it. So yeah, I think I sound like a bird in distress. I just looked at her, like I laughed. I goes, there's my Margie Minute. You can tell when a bird's in distress.
She's fluent in bird. Well, so what happened with the new cat that you weren't keeping? Like it was going to be an outside cat or whatever.
Well, that's the
Orange one. Okay. So it's now your cat.
He is going to be an outside cat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you put the collar on it?
We did, but it did not take. Put it on. He took right for the woods, and he just kept going.
I remember that, but he came back.
Yeah, it
Okay.
did come back and she was like, "Well, I'm not so upset that he might run away." I said, "He's got a $130 collar."
Yeah,
around his
yeah.
neck."
Right.
But eventually, he came back. We got it off, and now he'll go up in the woods and he'll come back, and
That's funny.
so far so good. But yeah, he's
How many are you up to now, including the new orange one?
I want to say 10, maybe 11.
Jeez.
I'd have to count all of them between inside and outside.
So
but-
I don't want to get political. I don't want to like ruffle any feathers, but I bet she is not happy about this whole
oh no,
DNR situation.
Yeah, it's been a rough week.
Oh, yeah.
Because she is not happy at all.
Because they're saying
I have to say that I agree because we saw it firsthand how bad our neighborhood was
Right.
before she started working with them, and how good it is now.
Mhm.
It works. There's no doubt about it. It's a good program.
Well, I think the concern, generally speaking, and I'm not positive on, like I am not up to speed fully on what the situation is, but basically they're saying that even if they're neutered
Mhm.
and they just don't want cats outside, basically. They don't
Correct.
want feral cats. So your outside cats, are at risk of being killed or captured and whatever, because they're basically saying, well, if you kill it, nobody's going to say anything.
Yeah, or if we catch you feeding it, we're going to fine you.
Yes, that was the other one.
And we're like, well,
But you have outside cats. So it'd be like somebody having an outside dog and feeding the outside dog and getting fined for it.
Hey, I'm just here so I don't get fined. Do you know what that's from?
I don't.
It's a sports.
Oh.
Was it Odell? Who was it? No.
Oh, I remember.
Remember?
I remember it. It was a press conference, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I'm just here so I don't get fined.
I don't remember
But-
who it was.
it is definitely, you're going to have more and more feral cats if that program does not exist. Because, like I said, we saw firsthand. I mean, we had so many litters of kittens the first few years that we lived there before she started working with a woman in that program. And now, I mean, we've had one kitten show up this year.
Yeah.
Just one.
And
So
so
it is far better.
TNR is basically you guys trap them.
Yes.
They fix them. It doesn't cost you anything to fix them. And then they release them.
Mhm.
And then now they can't.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, and Margie admits that the life of an outside cat is probably 2 years for whatever circumstance that you want to have, you know, whether it gets eaten by a wild animal or it just, you know, gets sick and dies or
Gets run over by a
gets
car.
run over by a car. There's a lot of different things that can happen.
Roger chimed in on that one.
But if you just keep letting these same cats have litter after
Yep.
litter, I mean, they can have more than one litter per year.
Yeah.
Mhm.
What is
Oh,
it?
yeah.
It's a lot. They have a lot of
So
kittens.
it
Like
can
rabbits.
get out of control
Yes.
very quickly. So you can go from having maybe 1 or 2 cats running around your part of the neighborhood, or you can have litters. So it's a great program. They should definitely not do away with.
And I don't think Yerkesville was doing away with TNR. Is that correct? It was TNR was basically like, hey, we don't know what they want from us anymore because they're finding you guys for feeding these cats. So if we're encouraging that, then they get in trouble.
Well, the way I understood it, see, we should have Margie on for this.
Yeah.
Is that they didn't want to fund it anymore.
Oh, yes, you're right. You're
they
right.
don't want to fund
You're
it,
right.
so therefore it would disappear.
Yeah, because they were paying a certain amount every year.
And so then I'm going to guess, since it's not funded by the city, you could, and from what they're saying, you couldn't have volunteers doing it because they don't want you feeding them.
Right.
They don't want you doing these things.
Right.
So I don't know what their answer is, their solution is, if they get rid of it. But it's going to be a problem.
Well, it
I mean,
sounded to me like
just as
there's-
many cats are going to get killed. You know, if they quit the program,
Yeah.
it's not going to solve anything. And I haven't even heard like how much money they throw towards this
Yeah.
program every year. I don't know.
Sure, it's a very small amount of money compared to
Yeah,
what we spend to repair the water park and
yeah.
Oh, yeah.
That would close
But
at
I
2
can tell
o'clock.
you, like, you know, even though it's funded by the city, it's still a volunteer thing.
Yeah.
Like my wife volunteers to do it. She does it because she cares about it.
Yeah.
Which how many people in the city do things and volunteer for things because they actually care about it. So you're going to take that away. How is that good for the community?
Yeah.
I just don't think that's a good decision to make. I mean, we're making a lot of decisions right now that
Yeah, I was going to say there's
raising
a
a
lot
few
of
eyebrows.
questions. Yeah.
Not a
of
whole lot of answers behind them.
yeah, a lot of questions.
You know,
Normally we do church in the park once a year. We do church in the park, and Courtney called to book the pavilion for church in the park, and it's $75, and they don't waive it if you're a nonprofit. You just have to pay it, which is fine. It's whatever. But my point is like they haven't always been
So stingy.
right. Yeah, and so I feel like, and maybe money's tight. I don't know. I don't know, but it just feels like we've kind of lost the focus on growing a community and using the resources for the community.
Yeah.
And turning it into more of a how do we make money? It's a business decision now instead of
Yeah. Well, and I mean, for how many days have they shut down the water park? You know, you could make that $75 triple the amount, quadruple the amount in one day.
Yeah.
But no, you're closing at 2
the
o'clock.
problem is they can't get help. But why can't they get help? Anybody
Management.
know?
Management.
Because they pay minimum wage.
Yeah.
When you pay a high schooler $9.75 an hour, whatever minimum wage is, even if it's $10.50 an hour right now, you pay them $10.50 an hour to empty trash cans and clean up garbage off the ground. right?
Mm-hmm.
How many of those teenagers do you think are going to show up for work every day? Very few.
Well, and not to mention in the 100-degree weather.
Right.
you know?
That's what I'm saying. Like,
And on their day off, they can't go swimming without an adult.
They changed that. They reversed that one. But
That's just baffling.
yeah, they reversed that one. But yeah.
I just remember being a kid with Yerkesville Pool. I mean, it was open during the day. Then they had night swimming.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
And
Yep.
it ran all the time, all through the summer. And I can't imagine we were that more well off back then than we are now.
I think the difference was, though, just like you said, people cared about the community back then. Like the people who were lifeguards back then, it wasn't just teenagers. There were adults willing to be
Right, right.
lifeguards. And now everybody's like, well, I'm not being a lifeguard.
Yeah.
I'm not doing that. Like you would never catch me doing it, but that's because I don't like kids. I can't imagine sitting on that thing and listening to people scream all day. I'd be crazy by the end of that day. But people just don't care about community anymore. And again, it's because we have such a broad reach now with all of telecommunications and all of the social media and things like that, that the idea of community has since died.
Yeah. Which it's a shame too, because we have so many small businesses that are being opened up and have opened up, but they're not going to thrive if we're just making these dumb decisions.
Yeah, they're not being supported.
Shooing them away. You know?
Well, I look at when I think of community, it's everybody supporting one another, right? Like that's kind of the idea. And we have to support one another by showing up for things, first of all.
There you go.
Like we can't, and you could say this about the church as well. You can't, oh, well, why doesn't the church ever have, or why don't we ever do, or we never have these things at the church. It's because if you don't show up, if you don't contribute to the ministry can't survive. And community is the same.
I was going to say that's any type of community.
Right.
Yeah.
So if Yerkesville's going to have an event, you have to show up for that event, and you can't complain that the event isn't what you wanted if you don't show up.
Right.
Or maybe you don't like the way something's running. Run for city council, things like that.
Yeah.
So, Roger, newly minted Denison Railroad Festival board member. I am the president of the Railroad Festival this year. And last year, and we get more positive feedback than we do negative feedback, but we have 3 or 4 people in the community who at one point were prominent members of our community. Okay. And they are degrading, rude, and obnoxious every time we make a Facebook post, every time they are just the type of people that you don't want to be around. And I finally just blocked them from our Facebook page. And I just said, we're not going to play this game anymore. You want to be that way, you're going to be that way on your own page.
Regardless. Yeah.
And we're not going to tolerate it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because what is the point? Why, if we're going to be degrading, what good is it doing anybody else?
No one. Mm-mm.
Right.
You're not helping. And so my point to all of that is that if we want to grow the community, we have to find new and unique ways to do that. And we have to support all of those things. And I'll give you a couple of for instances. There's a new theater group in Tuscarawas County, or in Yerkesville, Denison. It's Waterford Players, and they travel. They don't have like a home place, and they go to churches and event centers, and they have workshops and all sorts of stuff for people who are interested in theatrics and music and things like that. Music theory, how to audition, like all these workshops. It's pretty cool. They want to do a murder mystery. Well, there aren't many places that you can go where you can host something like that. And so Laura, the president of that board, she called me. She's like, is there any chance we could use the church to do this? Absolutely. Why not?
Yeah.
Right? Like that's what we're supposed to be.
That's right.
But then, and I'm not trying to be mean, but like the farmer's market, they had 100 offers to move to other places that were off of city property so they wouldn't have to mess with that. And they're insistent that that's where they're going to be. The problem is that
Are you talking about the Tuscarawas County one or the Twin City?
Twin City.
Okay.
The problem is you have a city who doesn't want to support the farmer's market. So if I were you, I wouldn't give them their $150 a month or a week or whatever it is. I would say, you know what? We are going to move to this parking lot, and you can pound salt because now, and they're going to go, oh, well, we don't care because it saves us the money on, roadblocks and things like that. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. It's going to hurt them more than it's going to help them.
Yeah.
But it was set up so it would in that
I
store
get it.
area
I get
and
it.
everything.
Yep.
And I'm like, what
Yep.
is wrong with
I get why
this
they did
office
it.
that you guys have?
Yep, I get why they did it, but at some point you have to just say, okay.
You have to pivot.
Yep.
Like
okay.
if they're not going to move, then we're moving the
And you know what
opposite
I would
direction.
say? I would say to each one of those shop owners, you get a free booth at the farmer's market. You don't have to pay for your booth.
Right.
You
Yeah.
bring your stuff, you set it up.
Yeah.
Because then I'm at least helping the shop owners, right? I'm giving them an opportunity to sell their goods, and while it's not in the store, but like Camp the Backyard, we love Camp the Backyard. We we are there regularly. And every time we go and we buy something, not because we need it, but because we like to support the store.
Mm-hmm.
No, there are a lot of people that may not like that store owner. I don't care.
Mm-hmm.
One time we had the bonfire here at the church, and we wanted the pine cones that make the fire bright blue and green and whatnot. And she was closed on Friday or whatever day it was that we were going. She went into the shop, packaged them up for us, took them down to Smoker's Paradise where my sister-in-law works, and dropped them off with my sister-in-law. And inside of the bag included a fire starter and extra, like all these extra things. Like, how can you complain about that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, if Walmart is closed, do you think you're going to call them and they're going to go in and get you? Like, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Those small business owners are the ones sponsoring t-ball teams and soccer leagues, and you don't have big box retailers doing that. So we have to support those people. Anyhow, this is completely off topic, but there we are.
Well, the problem with the administration is they're saying all these things that they're going to get rid of. They're knocking all these things down, but they're not saying anything about what they're going to build up.
Yeah.
What they're going to do. And at the same time, it's like they keep raising property taxes, and yet they haven't fixed our street or our alleys, and I don't know how long.
Don't even get me started.
Not since I've lived there, but our property tax goes up every year. We're going to get fined if we get caught feeding a kitten out of the goodness of our heart. But people can leave trash just stacked up on their front porches and destroy their yards, and there's no consequence for it whatsoever. Like, one thing that really drives me crazy is you can just have your one can for Kimball. After that, you either have to buy the Kimball bags.
Or why do we have to have Kimball? That's a monopoly right there.
Like, people need to get rid of their trash, and you can't get rid of it because they want to limit.
In Dover, we have to have Kimball. It's part of our utility bill. So when we pay our water, electric, and sewer, it includes our trash pickup. Okay? I can sit anything out there any day of the week.
Yeah, we can't do that.
I can sit out extra trash cans. I can sit out bulk items. There is no limit on what we can.
That's how Philly is too.
Nothing.
That's Shy was like wondering what hers was like, and I'm like,
and the city of Dover pays for that. They pay extra so that we can. And you know why they do that? So people don't leave junk sitting in their front yard, because we're a big family. We produce a lot of garbage, and I'm talking like just boxes and just things. You know what I mean?
That's from Amazon.
Yes. And we recycle too. But we have one really big Kimball trash can, and it is not big enough. So we have a couple of small ones that we've bought personally. We sit them out there, they empty all of them. It doesn't cost us anything extra.
They're
and
not
I think
allowed to do that.
Yes, I was going to say, and I think that they should.
Yeah, because Shy actually called Philly and was like, hey, what's the limit? Because we're just moving in this week, and they're like, I don't know. I mean, I'd say 6 or 8 big, in trash bags. And she's like, oh, yeah, we're nowhere near that, but they don't even have a limit or anything because, again, it's all included. Like, they don't. Yeah, my thing is, it's like, if you're going to be so stingy and so, like, just adamant about this, then you have to be around the full, like you were saying with the whole road situation. We're cutting down on the whole cat situation, but I mean, we're not worried about the roads.
I'm driving on the moon up there.
I would like to point out, though, that the administration is working on a grant to finish paving Trenton Avenue. So there's that for you.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah. Part of Trenton Avenue that's probably been paved 20 times.
Yeah.
My grandparents live on Packer Street, and I can tell you Packer Street, the last time it was paved, I was in high school. And it's rough.
That whole west side is just, it's not going to be there one day.
It's going to be like, is it California? Well, I think California and Florida, where they say, like, with climate change and over the next 50 to 60 years, they're just going to be like islands.
Are we waiting for California to fall off?
Yeah. Fall off.
Yeah.
Yep.
And of course, the wife and I get a little upset, because we do the big Christmas display every year.
You got to pay a fine for that?
No.
Yeah, the electric bill.
Margie, the electric bill. Margie's like, we get all these visitors now, and we got all these people coming past our house, and they don't even put it in the newspaper. They could put it in the newspaper, but like, they probably don't want to because it's on the west side, and then they might have to recognize it over there. Then they might have to pave the street. For all the visitors.
Yeah.
I've got a connection at the newspaper if you want me to call him. Seriously.
It's not that I want it to. It's just, I guess it's just the idea. Like,
Yeah.
Are they just,
There's-
just not.
And I know what you mean because there's certain things that they'll highlight in Philly and
Yeah.
Dover. I'm like, why are we highlighting this when
Yeah.
such
Yeah.
other things
We
are
got our
going
own
on?
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got our own stuff
Yeah.
to be proud of. But yeah.
You're probably going to have to get a permit.
That's what I was going to say. Now there's a permit for that.
Christmas light permit.
Yearly, yeah, they'll charge me every year.
Yeah, if you put even if you
Merry
just put Christmas lights up on your house now, there's a fee for that. There's a permit.
Yeah.
I don't even live in Yorksville, and I love reading that.
I know.
drama.
It gets so crazy. So crazy.
So.
Hey, so the question is, what's one of the best, or what decision has been most important in shaping your life today? Moving to Dover. I'm kidding. So honestly, and this now, let me defend the administration for a little while. Being part of the Railroad Festival, we have the parade that runs through both Yorksville and Denison. It starts at the intermediate school now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And comes
Middle
through
school or
comes
whatever.
through
High
Yorksville
school.
or middle school or whatever it is. Comes through Yorksville and then into Denison. And we are really fortunate to have Greg DiDonato in Denison right now because for the most part, like we have our differences, but for the most part, like he wants the festival to be successful, and so he's always looking for ways to help. It doesn't always come off that way, but I think genuinely he wants to help. But in Yorksville, we were basically told we're not blocking off the roads. Like they were until the mayor tells us we're not blocking off the roads, but we had gotten a verbal agreement the year before. So I got the mayor's number, his cell phone number. I just sent him a text, and he's like, "Taken care of. You guys will be covered. We won't have police presence at each intersection, but the roads will be blocked." I mean, he's very willing, but I think some of it is an approach, like for me. And so then when I saw him at the festival, I went over and I shook his hand and I thanked him for being so responsive. And so I think there's a trade-off in that. And so I also want to say that as Christians, in most situations that we're in, we may not like an administration or we may not like the politics of an administration, but we still have to be willing to, first of all, pray for them because that's not an easy job in any situation.
Oh, no.
Because
Right.
you're never going to make everyone happy.
No, never.
But second of all, we also have to remember that when we make an approach with them, like I have seen some of the people in those city council meetings and how they talk to
Yeah.
the council members and the mayor, and they profess to be Christians
Yeah.
and
Very rude.
Yeah.
not rude is not the word. Disrespectful
Well-
is the word that I would use in most of those
Yeah.
cases. Like I can be direct and still be respectful. They are not doing that. And so that bothers me a little bit. But yeah. So just as a reminder that's
And I will say it's not just our town
No.
right now because
No.
Philly,
It's all-
no.
Aunt Tanya was dealing with
Oh yeah.
the parcel weird agreement. There's a weird area behind her pizza shop where it's hers and there's like a
Martinelli Pool and Spa.
Martinelli pool. There's like 3 houses, but
Yeah.
it's they talked about doing like a business maybe, but I mean same thing. They had that hour and a half council meeting on there, and there was talk where they weren't even discussing when the council meetings were, so that way people couldn't show up, you know. But I mean, people were just going irate on there, so it's not just here. So
And the interesting part about that one is that people were ill-informed. I won't say misinformed, ill-informed. So basically, there's a piece of property behind a section of houses that runs across or next to the river or the creek or whatever that is.
yeah.
And it was protected at one point, and so the city could not sell it.
Right.
It was not sellable. But they told those business owners they could use that piece of property. So like if a truck needed to make a delivery or whatever, they were able
So it
to
was
do.
under conservation.
Yes.
Yes. So now it is not, and they want to sell it, but they want to sell it as one parcel. So like Tanya can't buy right behind her shop.
Yeah, it's
Martinelli
basically-
can't buy.
Yeah.
It's all or nothing.
Yeah.
And so basically the city told them, well, you guys band together, buy it, parcel it off, and then do whatever, but it's all or nothing, which is really messed up. But then people were like, oh yeah, these business owners just want to use it for free and they're mad they have to pay for it. No, they physically can't pay for it.
Right.
They won't sell them what they need. They
Right.
want to sell them all of it.
the whole thing.
And so if Tanya even were to come up with the money by herself, she would then have to own all of that.
right.
Yeah.
And then figure out how to sell it
I was
to
going to
other
say, and then
business
she'd
owners.
have to make sure that Martinelli would buy her that
Yep.
portion.
And if they come back and say no, she has 2 options: be the jerk and tell them they can't use it,
Right,
Or
right.
let them use it for free, and then she's out that money. It's a small business. It's a tiny,
Right.
I don't want to say tiny, but it's a small.
No,
pizza
it's a
shop.
yeah.
It's not like they're making $1 million every year where they can just afford to burn that money and
Yeah.
buy real estate. So
Well, same with Martinelli. Same with the 2 houses that are using it just as like a side yard or whatever, you know.
I think that was part of the old canal.
Yeah,
Yes,
I was going to
that's
say
what
it
it
had
was.
something to do with the canal.
yes,
Yeah.
you're exactly
So-
right. Yeah. Anyhow, that's so fun stuff.
Yeah.
I also am a firm believer. This is maybe not a popular opinion. I am also a firm believer that pastors cannot be political. I believe that I can have my own beliefs and I can see things a certain way, but my responsibility is to pray for leaders. It is to pray for my people and the people in charge. And I'm not saying that like I'm not passionate about politics. I'm saying that I will not speak politics from the pulpit ever.
Right.
Ever. I won't even encourage you guys to vote. You're adults, you know you're supposed to vote.
Right. Yeah.
And there are other churches who get mad at me for that. It is your responsibility to tell them who to vote for. No, it is not.
No.
That's right.
No, it is not. You are grown adults
Yes.
and you have to do your own homework. Listen, there are people in our church who don't have the same set of beliefs that I have, and I'm respectful of that, and I have conversations with them. Listen, do we get into heated debates about politics on some Sunday mornings in the cafe? 100%.
Yeah.
But it's intentionally done to grow people, not so that we're not all like in that stagnant mindset.
yeah.
So we want to grow people. But sometimes it gets out of hand. And I am the first one to pull it back together. Like we are not here to fight with one another. We're not here to hate each other. We're here to understand why somebody might feel that way. So.
Yeah.
I was just raised, whether you like who's in office or not, you respect them for the office.
The office
that
they hold. And
Absolutely.
I say the same thing about every pastor that you ever meet. And that is a hard thing to do because there are some people, like I'll be honest with you, there are some people who don't like me. And that's okay. That used to bother me, and it doesn't.
It used to
anymore.
bother me too, and
It doesn't
I don't care
anymore.
anymore.
But my problem is they were disrespectful to the office that I held, not necessarily to me.
Yeah.
And there were several occasions when I would say to people, "Would you have ever spoken to Florence that way?"
That's right.
I'm young. You know what I mean? Like people.
Yeah.
I had somebody ask me.
Some of them did it to test you.
Oh, certainly.
Yeah,
but the problem was when they tested me and I stood up to them, they bailed out because they're like,
Right.
"No."
Right. Yep.
Because I got mean, and it wasn't disrespectful, but I was like, "That's not how I speak to you. You won't speak to me that way, and if you choose to speak to me that way, don't speak to me at all."
And I feel like testing, like when you're trying to test someone, that's never really coming from a good heart. Like,
well, because
whether you say it is or not, I don't know.
I look at that like Easton tests me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's childish.
I was going to say,
Childish.
yeah.
You do that to see what you can get away with. That means you're trying to bend the rules, right? So
Absolutely.
yeah, that I will say that was one of the best decisions that ever shaped me too, was learning how to stand up for myself as a pastor. I had somebody ask me one time, because a lot of the people who know me here knew me before I was Pastor Michael.
Right.
They knew me as Michael. And so I had somebody say, "Do you prefer Michael or Pastor Michael?" And I remember I had to take a second. And I said, I get that a lot of people know me as Michael, but Pastor Michael is my preference in an official capacity. Like when we're talking about church or whatever, it's Pastor Michael. You come to my house for dinner, hey, that's fine. We can be casual. But generally speaking, it's Pastor Michael. That person has never used my name since. It's like, "Hey, can I ask a question?" Or, "Hey, I wanted to show you this." Or, "Oh, by the way," they never, because it's uncomfortable for them. And it's uncomfortable for them because they don't respect the office.
Right.
Has nothing to do with me. Has to do with the
Yeah.
office.
I have to laugh because you were in my phone as Pastor Michael. Was somewhere along the line it changed to
Oh, it's,
Michael Brindley.
it's
Yeah,
because
mine
we
did- mine
share
did-
contacts.
Mine
Okay.
did too.
Yeah, my virtual contact card is Michael Brindley.
So when Dawn's on vacation and I have to have that morning chat, do you know how many times I talked to Pastor Mike from Port Church from many, many years ago? Because I said,
It's funny.
I said, "Siri, call Pastor Michael."
Hello? It's so funny because you told me, "Well, Dawn's gone, so better be prepared to answer your phone." She only called me once.
No,
And I didn't, and I was busy, so I didn't even get to talk to her. So
Well, I had
apparently,
3 very nice conversations with Pastor Mike Crank.
At least she didn't get the other button on the phone.
yeah, the immediate reject button.
Yeah.
I'm like, I gotta fix this. So I did. I changed it to Pastor M.
Yeah, because do you have an iPhone? So it's my card, my contact card is Michael Brindley, and that's because I use my phone for work too. So, it'd be weird if all of my work contacts had Pastor Michael.
So,
Would be kind of funny, I guess.
Well, I mean, Pastor Mike, I hadn't talked to Mike Crank in a long time.
Well,
and
now
he
you
got
have.
3 phone calls in 1 week.
See there, you needed to talk.
Apparently,
to
you
him.
needed to talk to
I
him.
did.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe he just needed to hear from you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually,
I think
though,
one of the
we had
best,
some really good talks.
See?
He filled in for you, Don.
Good.
I think one of the best decisions I ever made was when I first started working. When I went up to Walden Books in the mall, and one of the first books I bought for myself was a Bible. I bought my own Bible.
Mm.
I think it was huge.
Yeah.
Because I remember, that's when I started reading for myself. I was always taught things about Jesus and had went to church off and on. But until I bought that Bible and really started reading it for myself, didn't really have what you would say a personal relationship with it.
Yeah.
So doing it at a young age, independently, somebody not telling me to, but just because, I just felt it was in my heart to do it, I think was that was a key thing. I'm sure I bought two books on Gettysburg.
I was going to say,
I was gonna say, yeah, you had.
I'm sure I went straight home and read those Gettysburg books first.
yeah, the Bible was
I'm
just
not
there
gonna-
to reference back
Yeah,
to.
yeah.
in the-
Yeah, there
from
you
the
go.
Gettysburg books.
But
It was a
but
reference
Yeah,
piece.
I just I remember. I think it was a King James.
Well,
Whatever they had. is
that's what I was
bought.
going to say. Not only buying it, but reading it. And when it was a King James version, which I'm sure it
Yeah,
was,
I'm sure it was.
you had to then be like, oh boy, what am
Yeah.
I getting myself into?
Yeah.
So you had to talk yourself through, you know what, I'm going to do this, So
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest failures of the younger group, and I always call them young adults. So when I reference a young adult, I'm talking 18 to, I'm going to say 35, but I still consider myself a young adult, just to be clear. 18 to 35 is that we don't read our Bibles to read our Bibles. We read our Bibles to put a check in a box,
Yeah.
to say like, oh, I did my devotions for the day. I'm going to do the Bible 365 or whatever, and I'm going to be very lackadaisical about it. Because until you're fully committed to actually reading it, you're not really gaining anything out of it, because you miss the relationship.
yeah.
You become task oriented on your faith, and then it's religion versus
Right,
relationship.
right.
So
Mhm.
yeah, and I had somebody reach out to me, and they're like, I'm really struggling, and blah blah blah. What version of the Bible would you recommend? And I'm like, first of all, you tell me you're saved, so you should have a Bible.
Yeah.
Because if you're not, that means like, what are you doing to further that
Yeah.
faith? That I'm not saying you're not saved if you don't have a
Yeah,
Bible. I'm
yeah.
saying that in order to grow that relationship, you have to understand who you're having a relationship with.
Mm.
Right.
And you don't Google who is Jesus, because I'm telling you, it ain't gonna work. My kids read those who is books.
Yes.
Have you ever seen
yes.
those?
Yeah.
Those
So
are
it's
awesome.
like, who is LeBron James? Who is Taylor Swift? And it's like, it's a brief history.
kinda cool.
And they have a Who is Jesus book. And I bought it for Emmett. He's obsessed with them. And he read it and he loves it. And like, that's one of his favorites. But
Yeah.
it is not like reading the Bible.
Chase's
Right.
93-year-old grandpa reads those because his grandma like loves the library and she'll just bring them, and I'm like, it's like third grade level
Yeah.
reading,
Yep.
and I'm like, hey, that's my kind of reading.
Yeah, Emmett loves them.
But-
He absolutely loves them.
Yeah.
Emmett has just finished. So Emmett devours books. They go to the library. He brings home 6, 8, 10, 12 books at a time and devours them. And he just finished every book in the kids section that they have on Greek mythology.
Wow.
Like, that's deep stuff. You know, like that's not just easy reading.
Right.
And he
That
just
was one of my
devours it.
favorite
I miss
subjects,
those
so.
days.
Just devours it.
I miss having the time to do that.
Yeah. And he will go out and it's that picturesque, like he'll sit under the
Sit
tree
under
with
the
a book
tree. Yep.
Yeah.
and just sit there and read.
Mm-hmm.
Before he goes to bed, it'll be 10 o'clock at night. Everybody else is in bed asleep. He's in there reading. Just loves to read. So
Awesome.
we embrace that, obviously.
Yeah, definitely.
But again, that wouldn't happen if my wife wasn't homeschooling our kids.
Mm-mm.
Do you know what I mean? Because he would go to school and he wouldn't get that push to be interested in new things.
I don't even think they have
Right.
books at the library anymore, do they?
Yeah.
I mean, my stepdaughter, she just brings home her computer every day. She don't bring books home.
It's fascinating to me. And again, the library is the most underutilized
Mm-hmm.
resource in
Yeah.
any
Yeah.
community. I can promise you that. My wife and kids, and I don't want to say they're there every week, but they're there regularly. But usually when they go, they get a bunch of books and bring them home and read through them and then take them back and do something else. But they're there for homeschool days. They do something with the kids. They always have events and things. Your Aunt Chris is fantastic. We love Chris whenever we go to the library. She's
Yeah.
wonderful. But she knows my kids by name, like they all do, because my kids are there so often.
Mm-hmm.
And they always tell us that like they're so impressed with how well behaved our kids are. And I'm telling you, your kids don't get that way if you're not raising your kids.
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You can feed and water them, and then they're bouncing off the walls, like pulling. You
It's like poison ivy. Like you feed and water them, but they're just going everywhere.
yeah, you can't stop those. There are some kids that I watch in the library that are like pulling books off the shelf and leaving them lay on the floor. Like my kids understand the Dewey Decimal System and they know how to put them back, and like it's a thing. It's weird.
Is that
to me.
still in there?
What?
Yeah.
The Dewey
Yeah.
Decimal?
There's no other option, Nick.
Yeah.
That's it. We haven't evolved from the Dewey
I
Decimal
wonder.
System. I don't know that we'll ever evolve
I
from
remember
that.
doing it as a little kid, going through all them cards.
Yep. No. You're talking card catalog.
Oh,
Yeah.
Card catalog. Dewey Decimal System is the one that's on the binding of the book. So
Right.
it's like
but isn't that in the catalog?
well, everything's digital now in the catalog.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't have cards anymore. You go to the computer and you type in
Yeah, okay.
like Greek mythology, and it'll say FCT for fiction,
Right, okay.
102.789 or whatever.
I used to love going through there, just flipping through those.
Yeah.
Because that was the adventure then. You
Yeah.
had to
Yes.
find it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I remember when I went to school at Trenton Avenue. It's a long
Yeah,
time ago.
yeah.
Okay, so this
That's
is
what
a
I'm thinking
weird.
of. And when I'm thinking of doing that.
It's a weird recollection, but I remember it very vividly. We would go down to the basement where the library was at.
Mhm.
Library was down in the basement.
Yep.
It's not anymore. Now it's upstairs
Oh,
on the main
really?
floor because they built that new building, that new section.
Oh yeah.
A long time ago, but
Yeah.
it was there. And we would go down there and we would race through the door because all of us wanted to get Baby Beluga. Do you remember that book?
Baby beluga.
So you went in and went to the right.
Yes, correct.
See, I always went to the left.
Yes. Yeah, of
That's
course you
where-
did.
that's
Of
where all
course
the
you did.
history
That's where the
is.
nonfiction is.
All the kids are running for Dr. Seuss on the right. I ran
Uh-huh. I'm trying to think with
time.
Eastport, I think I ran to the right because it was fiction.
Did anybody go to Park?
Chase did for a little bit.
course he did.
Yeah. He lived like right across
Oh,
the street.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, the Park school was for all the smart kids. I wasn't allowed to go there.
No, back then it was based on where you live.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, I think Margie might have went to Park.
Fun fact, where I lived, it was like Water Street. I was on the corner of Water and 6th Street. But this is gonna sound bad. My stepsisters were my neighbors beforehand, before they became my sisters. Anyway, so
Well, I think we got an interesting story to hear. Something.
before they were my sisters, they went to Trenton
Mhm.
because that 6th Street was like you could either go to Trenton or you could go to Eastport.
Yeah.
So like, I think Shy might have been in preschool, but I definitely went to Eastport and they went to Trenton. But then whenever we moved in together, they started going to Eastport. yeah.
At least it wasn't the babysitter, was it?
Nope.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
I'm not even going to go any farther with that.
Yeah. That topic is dead now. Other good decisions that I've made. One of the best decisions that I've made that has shaped who I am today was leaving the job that I was at. I'd worked at the job that I was at for 3-4 years, something like that. And I was pretty confident I was going to die there. Like that's just where I was going to be forever. And I was miserable. I hated it. Drank way too much, to be honest with you.
It wasn't the job; it was the people you had to work with.
Both actually, because so the job was stressful because of the people that I had to work
Yeah,
with.
Okay,
that's
okay.
how
So the
mine
people were
was.
rough. The people
Yeah.
were rough, but then things couldn't operate the way that they were supposed to because the bills weren't paid or whatever the case may be.
Mhm.
And I was the
Fixer of everything.
I was the problem solver. So I would, 3:00 in the morning, you're getting a call because we're oversold and you have to figure out where you're going to put this person. I remember one time we had Adventure Harley Davidson was staying with us for their ladies adventure weekend. They
Mhm.
always stayed with us. It was a huge event for us. Huge event. I'm talking they rented every room, every space, everything we had. They
Mhm.
took. And it was like 3:00 in the morning and a couple of ladies had been out drinking. Go figure. And they couldn't get into their room. And so I was living in Yorksville at the time. I had to drive up there to let them in their room. That door would not open. So I gave it a hard kick. That door popped right open. In they went. I never said another word. I just turned around and walked away because I was not happy about having to do it.
What happened to the night desk person? Weren't they supposed to take care of
They
that?
wouldn't do it. Like it was we can't get it to work. We don't know what to do. And so my responsibility was to fix it. Like that's what I did. I mean, I'm talking like the state came in and pink slipped the building and we couldn't sell rooms for a night because the capital gains tax hadn't been paid. Like there were so many things that had just been, it was insanity. And I thought for sure I was going to die there. Like this is just where I'm going to be stuck the rest of my life. And I'm not condoning the statement that you made, but I decided to go into ministry full time, that I was going to quit my job and go into ministry full time. And that's what I did. And when I gave them a 4-week notice, I gave them a month notice. And even at the end of that month notice, it was Friday. And I called my boss and I said, hey, like all of my stuff is done. I need to transfer power. Like I need you to take my credit card, count my petty cash, like take all of my stuff so I can leave. And she said to me, you're really quitting? Yup. Like I had made up my mind and I knew we were going to struggle financially. Like we had run through the money and we were never going to survive. There was no way we were going to survive. But I knew if I didn't do it, I was never going to be able to go into ministry because I couldn't work that job and be a pastor. It just wasn't going to happen. And so I quit that job with the mindset of like, we'll figure it out. And I was 2 weeks into that 4-week notice, something like that. It may not have even been that long. And I got a call from one of the owners that I have now. And he said, hey, we need somebody to fill in one of our theater shows. You know, you came to mind. Would you come out, see the show, and consider filling in that spot for us for a couple of nights? I said, certainly. I went out, saw the show. And he's afterwards, they're like, hey, what did you think? I'm like, it's great, wonderful, no problem. I can do it. And he said to me later, it's like we were departing. He said, hey, just so you know, we still have a hotel spot open if you're interested, because they had hired me a year before and I didn't go because I had just gone into a leadership program and I didn't think that I could walk away from that. I knew I couldn't walk away from that because I had been sponsored through businesses in Tuscarawas County. And I said, well, funny story. I just put in a notice because I'm going to go into ministry. And he's like, dude, let's talk. We went upstairs. We negotiated everything in that conference room. My wife, him and his brother and myself, we negotiated everything in that conference room. And I left there with a job. It was not my intention. And we have been blessed because of that job. The best decision I ever made was to say, I don't have to stay in this, what we will call, for lack of a better term, hell. Because that's how I felt where I was. It's not a joke. Like every day. So I lived on property at one point. Like they renovated a house and they moved me into that house. And we would, I would work all hours. Like it never really ended. So I would, every day at 4:00, I would go over to the bar that we had in the hotel. I would grab a bottle of wine. I'd take it back to my office. I'd open it and I would drink that entire bottle of wine sitting at my desk, wrapping up my day. Like that's how I survived. Because you were numb by the time you got to the end of the day. Like nothing mattered at that point. So it was miserable. It was awful. And again, it wasn't just the people, because there were people there that I loved dearly. I still have great relationships.
Yeah,
with
I was
them,
going to say that's how,
But there was no way that I would have survived being in that job. The best decision I could have made was to just walk away from that. Good, bad, or indifferent.
I had the pleasure of the one friend that I'm still friends with when we were, and I don't know, I was kind of iffy of like, oh, I mean, should I be her friend? But like I was taking her position, so it was hard, but she genuinely cared about this job and she was like a go-getter. I'm like, you know what? I'll just keep grinding. Well, then turns out we become friends, well, she's miserable, and I'm like, I almost said her name. Like, you just need to leave. Like, you just need to, and thank God, like I was going to say one of the decisions, I guess, would be, I don't know, I guess meeting Chase, because I was able to quit my job. Like she was not able to quit her job because she had a mortgage. We do not have a mortgage. I was able to do that. Well, then I found this job that she applied for. It was a year ago, because she just told me like a week ago, like, just looking back this past year, I can't even believe I'm the same person.
Yeah.
Like, she's so much happier. Turns out like she's making the same, if not more, at this current job. And she's like, I couldn't be happier, you know? And it's like, thank God. Cause she never thought she could get out. Like you said, like, she's like, I'm stuck here. This is
where I'll die. Yeah. This is what I will do the rest of my life, is be miserable.
And she would go home and just numb, like drink. And I think it was last January, she had like I think it was something for her thyroid maybe, but she couldn't, I don't know what it was. She couldn't drink for like 3 weeks and she just never picked it back up, and she's like, I strongly believe it's from that job. I'm like,
I agree.
So,
I
I
agree.
Yeah, but
yeah.
Don't you believe it? He had such great plans for you.
Oh, listen, I would have fought him tooth and nail through everything that he did. I remember, if you look back to like the whole me getting my license. When I remember the first call that Florence made to me about getting a license, she said, hey, I've been thinking about it. I'd really like for you to get a license. And I was like, okay, let's talk it through. And that was really the whole conversation. There was no like, I'm retiring. Nothing. Now I need to also remind you that at the time, Florence did not tell me that she was sick. I did not know that until Mike actually told me after she retired. I knew that she hadn't been feeling herself, but I did not know that she had cancer. She didn't want anybody to know. So this lady at 73 and 74 years old would come in here and preach on Sunday morning, stand on her feet for hours while she was here with a tumor the size of a softball on the back of her leg, wrapped so that it wouldn't seep and nobody would notice. Okay? So she called and asked me that, and I said, yeah, sure, let's start talking about it. She did all of the necessary paperwork. We started, and then they lost all of the paperwork. Then she calls me and she says, hey, we need to talk. Can you and Alyssa meet me for dinner? So we went to dinner at the Mill restaurant, of course. Where else would we go? And she said, I'm considering retirement. I want to retire on my birthday, which happened to be Mother's Day. She said, and I would like for you to consider taking over the church. And I said, okay, that's a big ask. Let's talk that through. And she had a notebook and she was prepared to just start asking all of these questions. And I remember Alyssa saying, what does this mean? Like to her. And she immediately closed the notebook and was just so gentle, like just shared, like, it's not easy. Here's basically what you're getting yourself into. And it feels like chaos all the time. And so we went into it again, not knowing that she was sick. And so our vision was that I was going to take over the church. She was going to retire, and she would always be my Mooney. For everybody at the table who remembers Mooney, he was her fill-in when she had open heart surgery. He would come in and he would preach when she wasn't able, if she was sick, if she was on vacation, whatever. He would come in and preach for her. It was fantastic, old fireball. Like that's just, he was a great man. And that was my anticipation that was going to be Florence, right? And was it a year? Was it even a full year?
Yeah.
Real
I
close.
think it was.
After I took over, she passed away. I never in a million years could have ever planned all of the moves that happened from quitting that job to getting the job that I had to taking over the church to like all of the things that fell into place. And honestly, I would not have gotten this church. They would have probably closed it and moved everybody to Denison because that was genuinely the plan.
Right.
Like when Rod found out that Florence had applied for a license for me and she called Foursquare and said that she wanted me to take over the church, that you're not allowed to do that. You don't get to decide. Foursquare decides what they're going to do. You retire, that's it. You announce your retirement. They find somebody, they replace you. And so she called Rod and talked to Rod. I met with Rod once, but it was at a men's retreat that we went to. Roger and I went to the men's retreat, and I met Tim May, who was at the time the assistant district supervisor. And I got to talk to Tim for about a half hour after everything was done. And I got a text from him probably the following day. He's like, hey, I just want you to know, you have my seal of approval. If that's what Florence wants and Rod is okay with it, just know that that's what we're going to make sure happens. And then I got to talk to Peter Bonanno, who's the district supervisor. He was the same way. Super, like, there's no reason for us to close this church. It's not thriving at the moment, but there's no reason for us to close this church if we have the means to keep it alive. So, I mean, it was, again, that whole path was, and have I ever told you guys that we actually cannot coexist with Denison Foursquare? It's in the Foursquare bylaws that you cannot be within 10 miles of one another.
Oh,
no,
I don't think
15
I ever
miles
knew
within
that.
one another. You cannot have two Foursquare churches within 15 miles of one another.
We're really
Well.
close then, aren't we?
Yeah, we're within the 15 miles.
Yeah.
But at the time that we both opened, that was not the case. So that's a new rule. Or I shouldn't say new,
I
but
got it.
newer.
You were.
So when
Your grandfather did.
well, again, yes and no. When somebody steps aside, especially if the congregation size is small and they have the opportunity to reevaluate, typically it's we're just going to close one and move somebody over, sell off the property, collect the money, and just be done with that one, and everybody goes to one. So it's bizarre that they even allowed that to happen. Like it's not normal that they allowed that to happen. So, yeah. Wow. A lot of crazy stuff. A lot of crazy stuff. Oh, and also this is a fun fact that I haven't even shared with council yet. I just learned this. It doesn't affect us. Well, it does affect us, but it's not in a bad way.
You're not going to knock me on my chair.
No. Well, maybe. I don't know. So
Well, we need new doors.
yeah, we do. We just about do need new doors.
Wink, wink.
And Roger and I said, if you leave us here late enough by ourselves, you might get them. Oh, Lord have mercy. So Denison Foursquare is becoming a covenant church.
Oh.
Okay. Which is fantastic for them. They actually, this is going to really peeve some of us in the room.
Others?
Huh?
Ruffle some feathers?
Yeah. Well, for those of us who know our financial situation, we are not flush with cash. Never have been, never will be. And Roger and I don't help that situation. But anyhow, they had a couple of people who wanted to pay for solar panels on their church.
Oh,
And Foursquare told them no.
really?
Told them absolutely not, because they didn't want any damage done to the building. So they didn't want them to mount them on the building. And they said, as far as legal is concerned, you could go to legal and ask, and if legal says yes, just know that as a building department, we're going to come back and tell them no. So don't waste your time, but you can if you want to, was basically what they said.
So covenant is.
So covenant is what we are now.
Mhm.
And that means that we have full control of the property, the building, the land, all of our assets. So everything in here belongs to us at this point, so long as we follow the Foursquare rules for the next 25 years. At year 25, the property becomes ours with zero restriction. That means if
Right.
we got upset, we could say, hey, Foursquare, pound salt, we're not paying you anymore. We don't want to be affiliated with you. And we could be an independent charismatic church at that point. The new rule, that 25 years is now lifetime.
Really?
Do you remember how hard I pushed to get us to do that when we did it? And we were so worried about the 25 years. Now you don't get out of it.
Wow.
But we are covenant.
We are covenant at 25. Our deed, our recorded deed, has a 25-year reversionary clause. Denison never goes away. It is always there. Their reversionary clause lasts forever.
Then why go covenant?
Well, the idea is Foursquare wants you to go covenant so that they aren't liable for your building anymore. So you have to carry the insurance. You have to manage all of the, so right now, let's say I were to do something stupid, and which I was going to say I'm good at, so it's like a talent of mine. But no, let's say I did something stupid that would get us sued, like something inappropriate that would get us sued. If you are a charter church with Foursquare, Foursquare is responsible for that lawsuit. They have to cover that lawsuit. However, as a covenant church, if we get sued, we are responsible for it. But we carry umbrella insurance to protect us from that. So the long and short of it is they want to get out of the property business. They want to have the perks of owning the building by saying, if you screw up, we'll take it, but not have to be responsible for the actual building, if that makes sense. So, but in 25 years, 24 years, 23 years, something like that, we could ultimately opt to say we don't want to be part of this. And I'll speak this on the podcast. I'm not afraid to do this. That Foursquare is in a shakeup at a corporate level, like that we can't even begin to understand. Like so much stuff is happening on high level that we can't even begin to see it. And there is very little hope, in my opinion, for what Foursquare is in the United States today. I'm not saying they're going to fold up or they're going to close or anything like that, but eventually Foursquare will stop opening churches in the United States and they'll open all of their churches overseas.
Well, they're pretty much doing that now.
That's what I was going to, that's their growth pattern is all overseas. They're closing more churches in the United States than they're opening. And so in my opinion, what we did, when we did it, how we did it, protected us, protected this building and this congregation. Because if Foursquare goes, you know what, hey, we're not going to do this anymore. We don't want to have churches in the United States, because we are a covenant church. Even though they have a reversionary clause, they don't have a choice but to give us the building.
Do you think they're doing their stuff all overseas? Let us know, Foursquare. Doing it all overseas to get away from the whole property, building situation?
I don't know if that's the case. I think there's a bigger draw overseas. So I'll be honest with you. The United States is very stagnant in the spiritual move. So when you talk about being slain in the spirit and speaking in tongues and all of those things, you go to a foreign country, that crap happens all the time.
Yeah, but they speak in foreign tongues all the time.
Yeah, to you, Roger. It's when they start speaking English, you got to worry about it. Yeah, we needed the drum roll on that one. So
I'm too scared to press any of the buttons.
I think what's happening is so from a doctrine standpoint, I believe everything that Foursquare does. I think that what Sister Amy put together and what we are based in is rock solid. I think the fact that we've become, and when I say political, I don't mean like Republican or Democrat. I'm talking like just the bureaucratic part of
The
everyday
force
operation.
behind
We're worried about being sued all the time, and we've got all of these technicalities and these legalities and all of those things. I feel like we have become so big that nobody really knows how to operate it anymore. Like it feels
Like the United States Postal Service. Don't even get me started.
it feels dangerous to them, and so
Don't you think all the churches in the United States are struggling with that a lot?
yes, absolutely. And that's why the majority of the churches that exist in the United States that are thriving today are non-denominational churches. So if you look at like, even look at New Point, they used to be Methodist. And they decided they were not going to be Methodist anymore. And the Methodist whoever's came in and they said, okay, well, that's fine, but you have to buy out this building at X amount of price. And their pastor said, no, we'll just move somewhere else. Bye. And they're like, whoa, wait. And he's like, well, now you have a $9 million building that you have to figure out how to get rid of. So they negotiated that price to a reasonable purchase price. Do you know what I mean? There are denominations that are afraid to do that because they're afraid of losing their quote unquote cash cows. Right? Yeah. See, we fly below the radar majority of the time because we are not like, we aren't writing them big fat checks every day. Like they know that we're like, they're barely surviving, but they don't come to us to offer help. They don't come to us to offer support. And they have things that we can go to, but they're not always realistic for us to go to.
Right.
Like Connections is in North or South Carolina this year. I can't remember. Well, Alyssa and I can't afford to take 3 kids, her and I, get an Airbnb, pay the registration on the event. Like we can't afford that. Our church can't afford to send us. So they don't think about that when it comes to those of us who are trying to, and they're used to full-time pastors, not bivocational.
Right.
folks.
Yeah.
So, but I think there will come a time when Foursquare does not exist as we have come to know it. And the good part about what we've done and how we've planted ourselves is that, let's say that they were like, hey, we're selling all of our churches and we're moving them all to Assemblies of God. I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm saying like if that ever happened, they would have to logically give us the option to just become independent and take that reversionary clause off, because if they don't exist, we can't revert back to them. Right?
Right.
So it would have to be just like the Methodist churches that were able to walk away. But because our deed is given to us free and clear already at this point, they can't require money from us. They just have to remove the reversionary clause. So, yeah. Fun stuff. Fun stuff. That was one of the best decisions I ever made.
Oh,
Yes.
Yeah,
no,
you
I
did-
was
you did a
going to
good
say
job.
that. Yeah.
Shaped the future of this church.
Yes.
Because the thing is when Florence set out, so she was, again, a very unique woman. She did not give Foursquare the deed to this building until she retired the first time. So when her son passed away, she stepped away. Or was that when she divorced Bill? Her and Bill divorced. I can't remember. But at some point, Florence actually retired once and was just like, she couldn't do it anymore. And she gave them the deed to the building then, but she held on to it the entire time. So they didn't technically own this building at that point. And she told me multiple times it was the biggest mistake she ever made. It was the worst mistake she ever made, because then you can't ever get it back. They own it. It's theirs forever. They didn't pay for it. It was paid off when she gave it to them. And now they own it. And she said it was the worst mistake she'd ever made. So it was my goal. It, like I set
get it
out
back.
to get that building back, because it was, to me, it was to fulfill a mission that she had set out to do. And here's the problem. I wish I would have been more involved with her on the administrative side while she was alive, because we wouldn't have even had a reversionary clause. Because she was the founding pastor of this
And
building.
she could have seen it happen.
Yes.
But you had to spiritually grow to even learn that
Certainly.
stuff. Yeah.
Well, but my point is had I been helping her,
yeah.
I could have said, hey, we can do this. Because I told her, she was still alive when I told her this is what I'm doing. I remember sitting on the floor in the living room and I said, hey, listen, I found this way that we can get the building back. And she said to me, I hope you do. And had she still been the senior pastor and we started the process, because she was the founding pastor of the church, there would have been no reversionary clause. They would have just given it back to us and walked away from it, which is amazing. But that wasn't what God had planned. So
Yep.
Nope.
And apparently we need the covering right now, so we're gonna run it. And,
Yeah.
and at 25 years, it's not like at 25 years I have a plan to walk away from Foursquare. Like we're gonna stick it to them. That's not the plan. But the plan is that we wanted to protect ourselves in the event of any catastrophic change
Yeah.
within the denomination or within, the country. Heaven forbid they start, cracking down on churches and you can't meet on Sunday mornings like you
Right.
couldn't during COVID.
Right.
So how long have we been here? We've been here too late. Oh my gosh.
Oh, it's 7:42.
Wow.
We have definitely missed that.
You need to get back in the seat because I can't get you to shut up. And this little timer right here
It
tells
did help.
you.
It did help, yeah.
You're running. All you need to do is just push the button.
He'll just keep talking.
That is true. You just have to mute me.
Yeah.
Almost 2 hours and 15 minutes maybe on Zub.
Yeah. And very little else. But good information.
The 15%.
Yes. Yeah. The
If
15.
we actually edited an episode down to just what is the point, we'd have 2 minutes.
Yeah, it would be a waste of even posting. But people have come to love this. One of the things that I get is that our podcast is relatable. That you can listen to it and laugh and learn things about each of us that you wouldn't normally know. One of the biggest compliments that I get is on Nick's history.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Everybody is always like,
Yep.
love when
Wait.
Nick talks about history. So,
That and Margie.
yes.
The Margie
and the Margie
Minute.
Minute. And the Margie Minute.
That always tickles me because
Yeah.
she used to babysit when my kids were little.
I tell everybody, if you've ever met her, if you would meet her, you would understand. She just loves animals. It's just,
Yeah.
it is what it is. She's so
She's
tenderhearted.
something else.
Do you
She's
know how much
pushing me. She's pushing me right now to publicly post my speech.
Well, she did. She shared it today and said, hey, tag people. Hey, I think
she
you'll like
wants-
this.
she wants to go beyond that.
Oh, jeez.
But with some of the stuff that's going on right now with all the pre-election stuff and a lot of things that are being after the Olympics.
Okay, right. Hold on.
Opening ceremony, all that. She's like, you really need to. She's like, because I just feel like you could shut a lot of people up because you know so much. I'm like, well, wait a minute, that's not the point.
Yeah, that's not.
I never go into anything because I wanted to show how much I know or
Right.
shut somebody up. It really has to
I
be
do.
for the right reason if I would do that. But yeah, after all the pre-ceremony stuff at the Olympics and all that, it just seems like a lot of people are trying to deny the fact that America was based on
Mhm.
a belief in God.
Yep.
And that's where our principles are. And a lot of people are trying to kick that by the wayside and
I just want to
go in a
point out
different direction.
that speech is copyright organic church. If you start selling that,
I was going to say, if he gets famous.
yeah, if you start selling that, making money, we want our cut. That little board recorded that speech. Oh goodness. Okay. Any parting wisdom, I guess, at this point, because we're not going in there now.
Well, my thought was, Margie, could you imagine her at the beach saving them baby turtles?
Oh my God. She'd have been trying to put them in her pocket. Trying to take them home with her. She'd have had sea turtles swimming around in a mud puddle in the yard.
She wouldn't have had 8. She would have had 800.
Yeah.
Saved.
And even if it had been their nature to go back into the ocean, she would have been sick to death,
Yeah.
worried that
What
something's
if,
going to
what
happen.
if something eats them?
Yeah.
I'm going to eat them.
Could you imagine her seeing a seagull swoop down and try to pick one up? She'd be chasing the seagull. And...
Listen, my grandson did. Drop it. It did.
Aw.
Jeez. Yeah, because that's those seagulls hang out waiting
Oh,
to see
yeah. Oh, yeah.
the baby.
I've
turtle.
seen hawks do that to babies.
Mhm.
And one day I was like, I can't leave Cooper out here. I was going to run in and grab something
Yep.
in the kitchen. I'm like, oh no, I can't do that.
Nope.
Wait a minute, you've seen this?
I've not seen it, but I've heard
So
tell.
Lucy, when we lived, I don't remember where we were, but there was a hawk that
Mhm.
you would see it in the tree. And we never left her outside by herself.
Yeah.
Because she was a little.
Yeah.
Lucy's like a squirrel for that
Yeah,
thing.
exactly. Her little meatball toe.
Yep.
I still won't let her sit on me. Well, I'll pet her on the floor. It's gross.
Oh, you take it doesn't have a dressing on it now?
No, they took the dressing off so that it could get air, and it's still got the little stitches in it. But just because they shaved her foot, you know what I mean? It just looks gross. I need that hair to start growing back on there so it doesn't look so nasty. It just little meatball.
Little meatballs.
What it looks like. So gross.
Okay, Michael, let's pray us out.
Okay.
But I need to know, is it A or C?
It's C, and remember, you just turn it up just a tiny little bit because it's really loud.
No, I'm
Yeah.
just kidding.
All right.
Okay.
pushing the wrong one.
There.
Father, we thank you for our time together. Father, we thank you just that the message is exactly what people need this evening. I thank you for the gathering of your people. I thank you for just allowing us to laugh and share and continue to pour out into our community. Father, I pray that the administration in Yerkesville just looks at what's happening and understands that there's a greater need than money, Father God, that there is a greater need, that we just need to be part of a community. Father, I pray that every person that's listened to this podcast, that they're blessed abundantly.
Yes.
I thank you. I praise you. I give you all the honor and glory in your precious Son, Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Hey friends, Pastor Michael again. If you've enjoyed this podcast, you should consider joining us on Sunday mornings. Our address is 1943 North Water Street Extension in Yerkesville. We'd love to have you join us for an in-person service.